All right, I'm in the science unit, and I want to go through the early draft stage of the science essay. And what you'll do is go down to the bottom of the science page, and you're going to see the writing assignment. And this is the essay right here. You can read that through. What we're going to be doing is applying Darwin's theory of natural selection, and we're going to be really illustrating it with an example that we choose. So we're going to need an organism, either a plant or an animal, to demonstrate it. Now, it's very important you understand when you're writing this essay, you are neither proving nor disproving natural selection. What you're doing is illustrating it with an example that will either, illustrate how certain things work, or it might challenge the theory in certain ways. But you are ultimately neither proving nor disproving. That is a false dichotomy, as I pointed out before. But if I download this, the early draft, what I get is a file in my browser like this. That's me holding on to the PDF. Move it onto your desktop. Okay, let me show you that. I've got one on my desktop right here. Have it downloaded onto your desktop. I've got it right here. The early draft stages, don't fill it out in a browser, okay, because it won't allow you to save it. All right, so download it onto your desktop and then open it up, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so let's go through it. And this is, you should also have a copy of the reading open, and this is also a PDF, and I have the science readings right here. We'll get to the essay checklist at the end of the writing, okay? So right now, you want to have 2 PDF files on your desktop. I've got the science essay in one place, the early draft, and I've got this readings in another, okay? But those are both open in PDFs on my desktop. Now here's the early draft stage, and it works like this, just to be clear on this. It's working on the body paragraphs first and foremost. You're not going to do any work on the introduction yet, or the conclusion, or the works cited. None of that stuff yet. We're going to get to that later on. This is the quotation for the first body paragraph. This is going to be the description, and this is the analysis. All of that is the first body paragraph. And the analysis during the Darwin essay is really an application to a situation. It's really an illustration with a species. So you're going to come up with a species that you want to use to illustrate this, okay? And then the second body paragraph is going to have a quotation, and then it's going to be described and then illustrated. The third body paragraph, the description, and then the application to, the species that you choose. The fourth, and again, that's going to be it for the early draft stage. Notice what we're concentrating on is the body paragraphs. So what we need before we get started is we need a species, okay? So what I'm going to tell you is keep it simple. I'm going to go to Animal Planet. I like animals. And I'm just going to find me any old species, and you can do it easily and just pick one up, out of your own mind. So let's find a species. There's one right there. Is that the Georgia aquarium? That looks like a beluga. Okay, that will be my animal. And again, it doesn't matter what animal. You need to choose one. Choose one species, only one species, and you're going to illustrate some aspect of Darwin with that species. And I'm perfectly fine with using Wikipedia for your, now, mind you, well, let's use National Geographic. I'm perfectly fine with Wikipedia or National Geographic or whatever. You're not doing a real research essay with this. You're doing an illustration essay with this. So don't worry too much about the quality of the source. As long as it's pretty dang good is fine. Wikipedia is, of course, kind of sketchy because you can change it. Anybody can change it. But generally it's pretty dang good. But we're not going to worry about the reliability of the source too much now. When you go into, as you go on in transfer, yes, you're going to work on the reliability of the sources. We did not have time to do the unit where we examine the reliability of the sources, so we can't do that. But what I need to do, what I need to get going on, is getting quotations that I want to use for the beluga whale. Okay, and again, I'm picking this one on the spot right now. And I'll read a little bit on it. That's what I'll do. And then I will find my quotations. So understand that I'm going to read a little bit on my example, and then I'm going to go through Darwin and find my quotations. So give me a bit, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've done some research on the beluga now, and I've got kind of an idea. And I'll tell you all I've done, and this is very important, and this is before I start getting the quotations. All I've done are two things. I read at the Animal Planet about the beluga whale, okay, or National Geographic, and it's not much of a piece. It's only this little bit. So, and I of course watched the cartoons, but I just took a moment there, and then I just read the first couple of paragraphs of the Wikipedia page. I did not do serious research, and you don't need to for this essay. That's not the purpose of it, okay? So that's what I did already, and I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do. And let's go back. So what I need to do first is get my quotations. And I got a sense of the whale, and you need to have a sense of the species you're going to write on. Either do plants or animals. And you can even do bacteria, and things like that. The only thing is, most of what Darwin's writing about makes more sense with animals. It definitely applies to everything from bacteria to tiny little parasites to even viruses. But be careful. It's a little bit easier to write about animals. So I'm going to use my understanding of the beluga whale, which is pretty limited, to find my quotations. So here, I'm going to go back to Darwin. There he is. Obviously, he's been in quarantine for a while. And the first few paragraphs are really setting the foundation of the theory, okay? And remember that Darwin's theory really begins on paragraph 5. He's setting the foundation of it. You have to understand what an environment is, what a variation is, things like that, and where he got the theory from, which was domestic selection. And so here we go. This is paragraph 5. I'm going to take something. Paragraph 5 is the core paragraph. It sets out the heart of the theory. Now, it is not the complete theory. The complete theory is structured. It has aspects and branches of it that apply in certain animals or certain species very well, and in others it doesn't work very well. Okay, he's got aspects of his theory that deal with social animals and things like that. And many animals like spiders and other certain types of fish aren't social at all. Okay, so some of them it doesn't apply to. But this one, clearly with the beluga, it's going to apply, the social aspect. So I'm going to grab that eventually, but right now, I'm going to grab something from 5. And so I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put it here. That's going to be my first body paragraph, and I would advise you to take the page number whenever you get a quotation. And this is page 42. I would advise you to make your life easier, put the page down early. It's a real pain in the rear end to find it later on. That's going to be the first body paragraph, and I'm going to write about that one. Now let me get one for the second one. Although natural selection can only act, which we consider, this first paragraph is about trifling aspects. And the beluga has that weird big round forehead, but it also doesn't have a dorsal fin. That's something I found out from the Animal Planet I thought was kind of neat. I had to look that up. I didn't know what a dorsal fin was because I'm just an English teacher, so I don't know these kind of things. That's page 43. So I'll decide on how I'm going to write about that one, either the dorsal fin or the big round head. I'll decide that then. but I've got a quotation. And then I'm going to get another quotation. Now, paragraph 7 sets out two aspects of the theory without using any example. It first sets out that certain things that are important are actually not directly adaptations to the environment, but are correlation issues. Blue eyes is correlated with white fur or white skin. Okay, that's a correlation. Blue eyes were not selected for. The white fur or white skin was selected for. And now I'm thinking here, the beluga has white coloring, white skin. I wonder if it has blue eyes. I don't know. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? So the first one is on something in the environment can have a direct effect. I don't know of anything in the beluga. The second is the law of correlation. I'm gonna take a try on that. I'm gonna suspect, and I don't know this as of right now, that I'm gonna suspect its eyes might be blue because its skin is blue. Okay, I'm gonna try to do that. I'm gonna see, and that's page. What page is that? That's page 44. Okay. And again, notice I'm just kind of driving blind. I'm not positive where this essay is going to go. I'm going to find out as I start writing. Okay. And now I want some aspect that's social, is what I want something from Darwin on the social animals. Okay. This is on the period of life issue. Okay. So certain adaptations come up at a certain period of life. And you know what? I did read something about how the babies do certain things, the belugas, but their ability to use circumlocution is right out of the box. They have it immediately. But I'm not going to use that one. That's something they actually share with their parents. And I like this. Paragraph 9 gets into two aspects. Will modify the structure of the young in relation to the parent, but also, that's this sentence right there. Okay? That's the thing, like breasts in adult females are not there to help the female survive. They actually help the young survive. It's an adaptation to the young. Okay? The Palmer reflex and other things like the sucking reflex, those are also adaptations of the young in relationship to the old. Okay, so those are young to the old. Some of you will have animals that will do that. And again, notice that most of this aspect of the theory you're getting right here applies to animals rather than plants, which is why, to keep it easier, I would urge you to go towards animals, but it's up to you. Social animals and the structure of each individual for the benefit of the community. So that's another aspect of the theory that's different than young to the old. It's social animals. It isn't a matter of children to parent. It's a matter of one individual to the group. The group becomes the environment. That's what I saw with the beluga, that these things are highly social. So I'm going to take that aspect of the theory. And notice I don't know yet what I'm going to do with this. That's on page 45. So I now have my 4 quotations. And notice I don't know for sure where I'm going to go with this, but I'm going to go with it, okay? That's very important. I will figure it out, the individual aspects of this, as I write the essay. And understand that as I figure it out, that will be the critical thinking that I need to do to get this essay done. So understand, I don't have it perfectly set up, but it's not supposed to be perfect. But I have 4 body paragraphs ready to go. This is my 4th one, the quotation for the 4th, my quotation for the 3rd, my quotation for the 2nd, my quotation for the 1st, okay? What I'm going to do right now is write the descriptions. I'm going to turn the video off for a second. What I'm going to do is write the descriptions, and then I'm going to turn it back on as I start applying. So give me a bit. I'll be right back. Okay, let me show you a little bit of what I've completed while the camera was off. What I did was the description of the quotations, and I just finished the description for paragraph 4. So I took this quotation on social animals and I described it right here. Okay? I took, in social animals, it will adapt the structure of each individual for the benefit of the community, if each, in consequence, profits by the selected change. Okay? So I explained that idea right here as best I could. For social animals, other members of the community become part of the environment itself and act to either preserve or subtract certain characteristics of the individual. The community ends up shaping the individuals for social benefits that help the community survive rather than for the individual benefits. These characteristics benefit the community and may or may not benefit the individual. That's me explaining this as best I can. Okay? But I had already done that in, well, I guess I haven't finished it for 3. Let's do that right now. Far more necessary to bear in mind that there are unknown laws of correlation. Darwin points out that there are unknown laws of correlation which result in characteristics of the individual that may or may not be adapted to the environment. And again, in his full-length book, he does go into blue eyes being not an adaptation to the environment, but something that are part of this law of correlation. They are white fur is, for example, in Arctic rabbits and things like that. Okay, so the Arctic hares are Arctic foxes and polar bears, for example. Although I don't know quite in polar bears, but the white fur will be an adaptation to the environment, but the color of their eyes will not, because it will be correlated with the fur. So that's what he's talking about. Some characteristics are just carried along as a bunch rather than individually being selected for. One of those characteristics might have been selected for, but the others weren't. Okay, so this is what this paragraph is a little bit troubling, because I'm not sure that the belugas have other traits that were not selected for. They do have the white skin that is, arctically, adapted to the white environment. But I don't know if there are others, so I'm taking a chance with this one. I may or may not find out that this one works. Let's see, okay? And again, at this point, I don't know. I'll develop the description a little bit more in a bit. But I developed this one, and I developed this one. I did the description. Now I need to do the application, and that's when I will find out if the correlation works. So what I'm going to do now is use my example, the beluga whale, and I'm going to apply it here, here, and here, to the 4 body paragraphs, and let's see what happens. So I've got the description down. Now let me see if it works, but understand I don't know for sure how it's going to apply. I'm just going to do my best, okay? All right, I'll come back in a bit. Okay, I just finished paragraph 4 in the early draft stage, and I kind of wanted to show you what I did and what I wasn't able to do. This was paragraph 4. This got into the social aspect of the adaptation of individuals for the benefit of the community. And these are a highly social animal, and you might find, and be aware, if you pick an animal that isn't so social, you can write about how this one does not follow that aspect of Darwin's theory. Again, please keep in mind that's going to happen. Certain aspects of his theory will apply incredibly well. Certain aspects don't work as well. Paragraph 5, where he spells out the core definition, that will apply. But the other aspects, he was working out characteristics, in this case this, in that case that. So in this case, we have a highly social animal where we see play fighting and things like that. But notice they're not fighting with each other to dominate each other. What I said, their play fighting is not an expression of competition with each other, but acts to develop their awareness of each other. In other words, they start coordinating with each other to work together during hunts. So I did that one, and I'll go back over the paragraphs. This was the first body paragraph, and I went into the beluga is adapted to its subarctic environment, and it's got a number of characteristics. I'm going to come back to this and refine it, but right now I'm saying that the beluga is adapted to its Arctic and subarctic environment very well. And the things like the lack of a dorsal fin and the large head are part of that. Okay. And so then I got into the variation that are a little bit trifling. They seem trifling, but are very important. I went into here the application of the large melon head on the beluga. That circumlocution is extraordinarily important if you're going to be a whale under ice. You must know that you're still breathing air if you're a beluga whale. So you need to be able to make out where the openings are. But you also have to be aware that there's probably going to be a polar bear waiting for you if you go up and breathe at that hole. So you need to know exactly what the makeout of the ice is, and your eyes aren't going to help you as much. So that seems trifling, that round melon head, but is extraordinarily important for the beluga. Okay, so I'm illustrating that aspect of Darwin, and it worked out really well. But watch this. That unknown laws of correlation, I didn't find anything. It just didn't work. It failed. I tried to make it work. I really did read, but it failed. That's the way it is. Life goes that way sometimes. So watch this. I'm going to change the focus of this paragraph. What I found when I was reading was this, not on the social behavior. That's where, and again, I'm in the Wikipedia page, which again is sketchy research, but it's going to do the trick. On color, I found out that they are born gray. In other words, that is as something they have as a characteristic when they're young. But you know what? They change when they get older. And I think you can now hear what Darwin was originally talking about, that there's a period of life issue. Okay? And this is, the period of life is 8, I believe. May appear at any peculiar period of life. That's what he's talking about. And so I'm going to go with that aspect, the period of life issue, and not go with the correlation issue. And let me go ahead and take this whole dang thing. Because really in the middle he starts talking about specific examples, but at the top of this paragraph and of the sentence and at the end he talks about what I want. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to move it over to here, and I'm going to work with this one. I'm going to take out the middle of that quotation because I think that's too wordy. That's too much, and I'm going to put in an ellipses. So I'm now going to work with the things that happen at certain ages. And this is on page 44. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to write on the gray skin at that period of life. So in other words, the young are going to be dependent upon the old when they're young, and so they don't need to be white, so they don't need to blend in as much. The parent will have to, and the parent will take on the leadership role. But when they're young, they'll stay gray. That's an adaptation at a certain age period, okay? So I'm going to work on this, and I'll be back in a bit. Okay, I finished this one. Now, please understand what I did, what I was trying to do, failed at first. And that's going to be part of this essay, and it's part of writing. You try things, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And so what I did was I changed the quotation. In paragraph 8, he talks about the variations accumulating at a particular, what he calls a period of life. So I changed over to that quotation. The reason I did it was because in looking into the beluga, I found out that they were born gray, and they actually turn dark gray or blue gray when they're young. They don't go white from the beginning. That is Darwin's idea of a period of life. And that really struck me. So my research, as light as it is on Wikipedia and National Geographic, guided me to a different quotation. So understand that. You don't just get Darwin and then go make an animal fit it. There was a back and forth process between the research and Darwin. That correlation, I wasn't finding anything. I was hoping to find something on the white skin. It didn't work. I did come across something when I was looking at white skin on period of life. Oh, okay, so I can work with that instead. So I had to throw it out and change it. And this is my third body paragraph on the period of life quotation is right here. Okay. And I didn't need all that middle stuff that he went into as the front of that sentence and the back. If you use a period of life quotation from paragraph 8, you need to know that the middle of that first sentence isn't useful. Okay. The middle of it. You can just chop it out and put an ellipses in. Then I described it right here. And then I applied it. In applying it, I figured out that the young don't really engage in the hunting behavior. So you know what? They don't go near the ice. They're not going to be threatened by the polar bears. So they don't need to be white. They need to fit into their environment so that they're not preyed upon as readily or as easily. So they needed that darker color. So they fit in. So what I've gotten right now at the end of the early draft stage, I've got my first quotation from paragraph 5, that's page 42. Paragraph 5, page 42, that's the very, very important paragraph that really defines natural selection. Again, as I said before, one of the most important paragraphs ever written, period. That's it. So that's where he spells it out. So I took that one. Okay. And then I went into the structure of the theory. For the good of each being, characters that are considered to be trifling. I did the trifling one. That one works really well. You find some weird little characteristic and you end up finding out, hey, that's actually really important. Okay. So that's what paragraph 6 is on. It's page 43. It's paragraph 6 of the reading. And then I went and I changed it. I changed that one paragraph to paragraph 8 so that I get an adaptation of the young that only, it's a period of life issue that they get to be gray when they're young, but they got to whiten up by the time they get older so they can work with the ice. And then I got this one in social animals. That I got into a behavior. The play aspect is a characteristic, and this is very important. You don't see it in the structure of the animal. Where you see it in social animals often is in the behavior. I had mentioned before with zebras, you see it in the stripes. But with the belugas, and frequently in social animals, behavior becomes a characteristic. And the play behavior, I think, sharpens the skills of the belugas so that they can hunt together. So they're not fighting with each other. They're playing with each other, and that makes them more aware of each other. So when they're hunting, they really know what each other is doing. So you can see I have the early draft stage right now in pretty darn good shape. I'll come up with another video probably later today or by tomorrow, and where I'll put this together in the middle draft stage. All right? Take care, you guys.